Hello, everybody. Welcome here to Half-Ass Podcast. What a night we have for you guys tonight. We are reviewing A Scanner Darkly, the 2006 sci-fi animation classic. But without further ado, let's get to who we have here on the panel here tonight. To my right, we have the author slash creator of Walter Paisley Cafe and editor and the end all and be all of Walter Paisley Cafe, which by the way you can find on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Mr. Mark Platt, how are you doing here tonight?
Doing very well, Corn. Thanks for having me. And greetings and salutations to anyone tuning in.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, down here to the bottom, we have my boy Smith. Smith, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good. Yeah, not much of an intro. I don't have any websites or anything. But just a guy who likes to talk, or not even that really. I don't know why I'm.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, and you all know who I am. I am me. I'm Corn. I am the Half-Ass Pod man here. But, ladies and gentlemen, I know you all came in here to watch, or at least to hear about our reviews and of A Scanner Darkly, starring Robert Downey Jr., Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder, Woody Harrelson, and who's got to play Freck? I always forget this guy's name.
I don't know his name.
Rory Cochrane. I always forget that. So first off, Mark, can you give us a synopsis of what exactly A Scanner Darkly is about?
All right. A Scanner Darkly is an adaptation of a Philip K. Dick novel of the same name. It was written in 1977. I read the book a long time ago, and it's supposed to take place in a near future, and it may have said it was like 1984 at the time. However, I think the film is a little bit more updated given that there are cell phones. But mind you, it was released in 2006, so there were no smartphones at the time of this film. And what it is about is a near future where the drug war is lost. Okay, full disclosure, that's what the Wikipedia article says. I don't remember if that was actually said in the film. Do you guys remember that? The drug war is lost in the United States.
It doesn't explicitly say that, but there is that part where he's at the police officer convention or whatever it is, and they talk about the war on drugs. Yeah, that Wikipedia article might need to be updated.
Yeah. So Keanu Reeves is the star of the movie, and he plays someone named Bob Arctor, who is involved with the drug culture of a drug called Substance D. And 20% of the citizens of the United States, well, more than 20%, almost 25, are addicted to Substance D. So the police have a program to go deep to infiltrate the supply system of Substance D. And Keanu Reeves plays a double agent who, if that's the right way to put it. But yeah, he's an undercover agent that infiltrates that scene to find out where the supply lines are coming from. And he works for the sheriff's department, where everyone's anonymous to the point where the people that walk into the sheriff's department that work in there put on what is called a scramble suit, which gives several images and voices of the person within the suit. So this is, as far as I know, technology that hasn't been developed yet here in 2020. So that's probably the most science fiction aspect of the film that I could recall. However, the film goes deep into Arctor's cover and Arctor's mind. And if you know anything about Philip K. Dick, you might have an idea where that's going to go.
Yeah, this movie was very, very exciting. Let me tell you something. I remember you guys told me about this movie, and I looked up the premise, the synopsis, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I'm totally down to review this movie. I will say I had to watch the movie twice, man, because this movie was so trippy the first time I watched it. I might have been a little stoned, but in my defense, this movie is a movie you have to pay attention. Like if you miss like a very small detail of this movie, you got to start over. You got to go back. We're just gonna start off first with actual characters from here. But before we do, let's get these chats out the way. We got Anthony Dufresne says drugs are in fact quite awesome. All right, Anthony. I mean, hey, that's just your opinion, man. Shout out to Contemporary Comrades. What's up? He says we in here, and then he says we three. Shout out, Jaron.
Wow, nice.
And so let's go. Let me see if I can share this screen. All right, so let's start out with Woody Harrelson's character. So this guy was quite interesting. Probably one of the more interesting characters. I mean, they're all interesting characters, but probably one of the more entertaining characters, I should say, of this movie. Smith, I'll start with you. What was your first impression of Woody Harrelson's character?
Jeez. Well, I think he's kind of there for comedic relief. He had some interesting things to say, like some good dialogue, but yeah, outside of that, I don't think too much about him, Good work though. Let's start by saying that all the actors in this were really good. I mean, obviously these are like A-list actors, but they all played the part really well. And I don't know if that's because of the animation over it, or because you can't really see their facial features all that well, so it's easier to just like almost like a voice acting job. But yeah, they definitely did a good job.
All right, Mark, what did you think about Woody Harrelson's character?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on line with Smith. I don't see how anybody could watch this without thinking that most of what the character provides is some comic relief. He doesn't seem to be all that integral to the mechanics of the plot so much, but I mean, he's definitely he would be missed if he's not there. He does have some interesting dialogue. He does stand out. I do like Woody Harrelson, and I think he did a good job. And this is quite an interesting time and in his career to see him, especially in a independent film like this, where now you almost always see actors like him in major films. I mean, if you count like Solo and Zombieland in both movies.
Hunger Games.
Oh, he was in that. Oh, I still haven't seen those.
Oh wow. I'll say,
what?
Yeah, and he's going to be Carnage as well in the new Venom movie as well.
Oh wow, cool. Hopefully
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, but I'll caveat off of what you guys said about this character too. Like, I mean, there's not too much to him except he's addicted to this substance D, right? And he's one of the more, should we say he's one of the more bad cases of people that are addicted to it, right?
Well, yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I just to say I don't remember anything. I mean, he seems flighty, but did he hallucinate it all in there? Or, I mean, there's definitely some disconnect with reality with him, but it doesn't seem as strong as the other characters from what I can recall.
I wonder, and again, I don't know if this was even said in the actual movie, but I wonder if his character was a drug addict before Substance D, because it seems like he's done this, like he's just used to that feeling. You know what I mean? He's used to not being able to think straight. You know what I mean? Like if you, I don't know if you guys have ever been around people on, maybe not on like super duper drugs all the time or anything but like people that have been on drugs and that have like, you can tell that, okay, it's not his first time, experiencing this, but again, I don't know if they really clarified that in the movie, whether he even used to be a drug addict before, the whole substance D came into play. But yeah, I mean, yeah, again, his character was funny. He was there. I agree. He was there for comedic purposes. I like Woody Harrelson, man. I gotta say, and again, there's two guys in Hollywood that you may not seem like you should be afraid of them, but you should definitely be afraid of them. One is Woody Harrelson, and the other is probably Marilyn Manson. All right, so like again, Woody Harrelson, he can be the scariest guy in the room. He can be the funniest guy in the room. He can give you some great dramatic performances as well. I think one of my favorite movies that I've ever seen him in is this movie called Out of Furnace with Christian Bale and Ben Affleck's brother Casey Affleck. But yeah, his character was good for what it was. I thought he was gonna die like midway through the movie. Remember the kitchen scene where like he probably passed out a little bit. Yeah, I thought he died. But...
yeah, and that was a funny scene because he was trying to get Robert Downey's attention by throwing him something at him, and James was Downey's character's name. Didn't react immediately, and so that was a funny scene.
He's one of the bigger elements to this movie that actually made me continue to enjoy the movie when I felt like it was getting like a little bit too far away from the storyline. But we'll get more into that. So anything else you guys want to say about Woody Harrelson's character?
Yeah, I think just given his skills in acting, did well for the character because the character, would otherwise not be a huge standout for not his performance of that character.
Yeah, and again, this movie could have been done way worse with way worse. Like what I mean? Like they could have used some non-notable actors and just had a movie just like this, and I still feel like it would not have resonated as much with us as viewers or as the audience, period. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate them, having Woody Harrelson in this movie. Let's move on to our next character. Our next character is Robert Downey Jr.'s character, and let me get his name really quick. His name was James. All right. So James Barris. Now, this guy who seemed like he wasn't going to be a pivotal part in this movie ended up being a pivotal part in this movie a lot. So I want to know, Mark, I'll start off with you. What was your first impression of James Barris and overall?
Well, I really like Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, but I could almost imagine somebody telling me I'm full of shit because given that he's become such a prominent actor because of his role as Iron Man, I couldn't help but seeing Iron Man or Tony Stark in his character, in this recent viewing of it. Mind you, the first time I saw it, there wasn't even Iron Man. So, but I like Robert Downey Jr. And besides, I mean, actors, rely on what they have learned, and I think he fit the part well with the way with his character's paranoia and his theories, and just the gesticulation that he did alone just really provided a lot. So. Even though there's not a lot of action in this film with this character, the gesticulation provides a lot of moving around, so you can see. And I think it was done well, and it was done humorously. My favorite performance in the film.
It's big words, big words, big words, Mark. All right, Smith, what do you think?
So I think he is the moral ambiguity of the film. I mean, they're all sort of ambiguous in their own right, but he, he's definitely paranoid, but even with the choking scene, and he's like, well, he notices that, the other character is choking, and he just sits there for a while, and then he finally gets around to calling the police, and he doesn't do anything, sorts the situation out on himself. So yeah, that's what he's here for, I suppose. And sort of like to contrast Arctur's character, because he is is supposed to be the good guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard to see where I'm going with this, but you know what I mean.
I think that James Barris, right? Yeah, I think that James Barris's character was very. At first, I couldn't get like you said, Mark. I couldn't really get Iron Man out of my head in the first 5 minutes of seeing Robert Downey Jr.'s character James on here, and I was just like, all right, hopefully we're not getting another like sarcastic, too smart for his own good kind of guy. And we didn't. Like I mean, after like I want to say after maybe like 25, 30 minutes, I started seeing um what I haven't seen in any other Robert Downey Jr. movie. But again, I don't really watch that many Robert Downey Jr. movies because a lot of his movies are before or pre, Iron Man. I actually want to caveat off of what you said, and say that Robert Downey Jr.'s character, James Barris, was probably my favorite character of the whole movie, because, and then also caveat off of what you said as well, Smith. It's like this character is probably what the actual moral premise is supposed to be based off of, and it's weird because you would think it's supposed to be Keanu Reeves' character. Arthur, right? Because of, he's, the main character, supposed to be the good guy, blah, blah, whatever. I gotta say, Robert Downey Jr.'s character, this character was so good. I mean, from beginning to end. All right, so from the beginning, you're thinking, all right, this guy's not smart enough to pull off this or pull off that. He's not smart to do all this other stuff. Then you're starting to think halfway through the movie, you're like, okay, maybe this cat is smart. And maybe he's, maybe, because remember that scene where they're sitting in the tow truck and they have that conversation, and then they're on the way to the house and they have like this 5-minute back and forth conversation about whether he actually booby trapped the house or not. Like, I love that scene.
Yeah,
I absolutely fucking love that scene, because if it was anyone else, like, you have to play. Not only you have to get the perfect character or the perfect actor to play that character, but you also have to make that character kind of like how Robert Downey Jr. is as a person or as an actor. Like you got to kind of give them a little bit of an edge, as well as that a little bit of a comedic a comedic mindset to them, to where they're fucking with other people in the scene, but they're not trying to make it too obvious to the audience that they're fucking with the other people in the scene. So again, at the end of the movie, I went back to, obviously going back to the original thought of, okay, this guy wasn't really that smart, but they had us. They made us think that he was smart, and then came back down to earth to where he's not really that bright, and he kind of set himself up in the end, which, again, I kind of enjoyed that part, but I kind of got confused with that part a little too as well. But again, we'll get more into that. But yeah, I gotta say, this was definitely my favorite character of the entire movie, even though some of his morals were probably not the best. But yeah.
Well, one of the things that to think about while watching his character is that this is closer in memory for people to the struggles he had with drugs and run-ins with the law as an actor, especially to the point where people didn't want to work with him for a while. He had to sort of make his way back into it. And it was kind of like a role like this that is kind of like a wink to that, where his character being funny in the way he is kind of an irony of that, where it's just like, hey, I'm Robert Downey Jr., I'm the bad boy of Hollywood, and this is the film. I mean, fortunately, he didn't get typecast into that out of it, because he certainly has versatility beyond that. But it's interesting to think of when watching that. I also thought too that if having Philip K. Dick in mind, that maybe between Keanu Reeves' character Arthur and James, there's sort of a author surrogate in those characters where Keanu Reeves' character has more of a disconnect, and Robert Downey Jr. represents the paranoia that Philip K. Dick experienced himself almost his entire life, if not all of it. He started to question reality as a child.
Yeah. Still there?
Yeah, I'm here. But did I blank out?
Oh, oh yeah. No, I didn't know what you blank out. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. You're right. You're right. I got a caveat off of that too, and say that on top of like, do you guys think that Robert Downey Jr. was like? I know you say he wasn't typecast into it, but like, it would have to be a little bit weird the fact that he did overcome this very long addiction with drugs, and then what does he play? In 2006, a drug addict. Yeah, that's got to be tough too, man. Yeah, that's got to be extremely tough. But as an author and being able to reveal and about your overcoming of drug addiction, do you guys think that was a little bit inspirational for Robert Downey Jr. to say, hey, I mean, this author pretty much made this movie about himself and about his own experiences. Let me just, I can do this even though I dealt with this myself.
Yeah,
Yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah, I think maybe it even was kind of a transition role to where, he, eventually ended up getting, into a movie franchise that was bought by Disney, who are notorious for controlling their actors and are very finicky about their public image as well. So, but I think a role like this sort of, got him the start to back on his feet, where, and then too, maybe there's just a drug because was an independent film, and it wasn't a big Hollywood deal either. It might have been part of where he was anyway. And so, as far as like coming out of it and getting back into the business.
Yeah. So just basically emotionally, mentally, So like he had, like, I've never been addicted to drugs or anything like that, but like I would think you have to have everything like in place before you do like a role like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anything else you guys want to say about his character? I mean, I'm sure we're gonna be talking about his character again once we get into the actual movie and different scenes and stuff. But anything else you guys want to say about James Barris?
Nope.
I'm good.
Alrighty. So now we have Arthur, the main character, Keanu Reeves. Wow, man. Smith, what did you think of this character, man?
Oh, I personally hate Keanu Reeves as an actor. I know that might sound harsh, but like, look at the work he's done, like in Matrix. Okay, I mean, if he's playing like someone with a gun who doesn't talk much, he's fine. But but at least in this role, he did a pretty good job. And
You haven't seen Bill and Ted?
listen, you're not going to be able to convince me otherwise. Keanu Reeves is a bad actor. I don't know how he made it this far, but he did. He's a nice guy though, in person, I'm sure.
Don't mind me. I say the same thing about The Rock, so it's okay.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But this guy, he did a good job in this act though, because you could just really tell what he's thinking and feeling at the time. I don't know if that's because of the writer or because he did do a good job acting this time. But yeah, good person. I don't have much to say about the character development. I figured we'd go into that later, but if you guys want to talk about that.
Okay. Mark, what about you?
Well, I think playing this character for Reeves is kind of an odd combination of Bill and Ted, Ted and the Matrix, in the sense that they didn't have drugs in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in the sequel. but they were total stoners, at least in the stereotypical way, just, like almost probably more of a parody, I don't know, or just a continuation of 80s stoner films. But yeah, but yet, in the Matrix, Neo, he's, he's disconnected from the reality and sort of disorientation with that, kind of plays into this character. In fact, I think more so than the stoner aspect, but the stoner aspect comes into it given his cover.
Yeah.
But I think Robert Downey Jr. pretty much, I mean, his Reeves was good, but yeah, Downey Jr. mopped up the floor with him, took took the stage,
Yeah. Um, I like his character, obviously. Not as much as Robert Downey Jr.'s character, James Barris, obviously, but it was his Robert. I mean, not Robert Downey Jr. Keanu Reeves did his role as good as he should have. His role wasn't meant to have this super. Now, again, we're almost done with the character aspects of it, but the ending of the movie I felt like was supposed to be the punchline for his character. But we'll get more into that, whether it was or wasn't the punchline for his character. But Keanu Reeves' character, look, this guy was good for what he was. I kept getting confused with the whole identity change stuff, but again, when I watched it the second time, I was like, okay, it kind of clicked for me, just at least a little bit more. I kind of got a better understanding of what he was and what his role was in the movie. But yeah, I mean, it was good for what it was. Like you guys, I don't really have too much to say about his character. And the stuff that we are gonna go over about his character, we're about to go over anyway. So, yeah, I don't have too much else to say about Arthur. But yes, obviously he was the most important part. He was the main character of the movie. But again, not many people can really resonate with what he was doing because he was also in the what do they call it? Scrambling suit, I think they call it, right?
Yeah, scrambled.
So he was in that. And he was also like the undercover cop. Like it was crazy. It was crazy. But yeah, we'll get more into that. Let's go into our next character. By the way, here's an example of the scrambling suit for the viewers here watching. This right here is a scrambling suit. So this is what Keanu Reeves' character was under when he was undercover as a cop at the what they call it, the Orange County Police Department, or what they call it, right?
Something like that. Police station.
Yeah, police station or something like that. Yeah. But now we have Winona Ryder's character, Donna Hawthorne. So now we got Donna. Mark, what are your first thoughts of Donna?
Well, the dilemma that I found with her, as far as her role in the film goes, yeah, she was, she was the woman who definitely had an integral part in the movie, but still kind of took a back seat to the other guys in the movie. So, yeah, I mean, of course, as an actress, she could have played a stronger role, and I mean, it's almost kind of a sausage fest in the film had it not been for her. And fortunately, she's strong enough to be able to stand out better amongst them.
Yeah, she her character's a bit strange. And by that I mean, we'll get more into it, but she ends up not being who she says she is. And she ends up being this. So this is the part where I get kind of confused. So was she a part of the very same people that were doing the research on Arthur, or she was just a part of the police station?
Uh, I think she was in deeper cover than just about anybody else in the movie, as revealed by the end. I don't know how far we want to go into spoilers, but
We'll spoil away. Spoil away.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, when you go back to where she's um, Arthur's girlfriend, or she also what helps him. Yeah, she's helped supply him with substance D, and then we find out that she works with them, but of course, or at least works for the sheriff's department as well. But they don't necessarily work together, or they're unaware of it because they're all anonymous at the sheriff's department. And then, of course, later in the movie, we find out that the whole thing's been an investigation for the company whose name I forgot, that was the sponsor of the talk at the beginning, that was providing funds for the investigation of Substance D. Uh, and to come to find out, that company was supplying that. And then, of course, Arthur was sort of like tricked into becoming addicted, and so addicted and wasted that they would only allow him, that only like somebody that wasted would be allowed to be involved with anything within the inner circle, the inner workings of it on the farm. And they just hope, well, maybe some part of them will realize that he's an agent, and then and then Donna questions that. So yeah, she went really deep because she was like covering for cover for cover.
Yeah. I she the thing about her is that she was very, you would think throughout the entire movie her role was very like, I don't want to say non-existent, that just sounds mean, but like it was very forgettable until the end. Like it was like, okay, yeah, she's here. Okay, yeah. Like the scene where he was like chilling at her house and they were like, I think they were fucked up still. I think at that point we were chilling at the house on her couch, and then she like kind of like lashes out on him a little bit. Then she like wants him to come back. While like, woman being a woman, right? But yeah, like it was, her role was good for what it was. But at the end, we got that big surprise, right? We got that big payoff that okay, she was she was she was pretty much his superior this whole time. What kind of really got me was how she found out that Arthur was Arthur. But again, we'll get more into that. We have one last character to get to before we open it up. Freck. We have Charles Freck, right? Charles Freck to me was someone that was pretty much the extreme of what he was, like the extreme case pretty much of what substance D, the effects of what substance D was actually doing. This character was very, very interesting to me because while you think that he was actually going to die, did he end up dying? Can somebody please tell me whether he ended up dying or not? Because remember where he's laying in the bed, and then you had the what the fuck do you call it? That the green thing from like
the interdimensional being, or
yeah, that thing, like the thing with like so many eyes, or that green thing, right? And it pulled out the scroll, and it was reading all his sins. And then he was saying that it was going to take like hundreds of thousands of hours or something like that, or 100,000 years to go over all his sins. But then they said that that he was trying to, he pretty much wrote like a suicide note, right? And tried to overdose on the substance D, as well as drinking wine.
Oh, sorry, Smith.
Yeah, he was definitely trying to off himself, but I think it didn't work, and that whole interdimensional being thing is like his bad trip, I guess.
Okay, so that's what I was assuming. I was assuming that he didn't die, but that he had to suffer. So he was still like in this different state for so long. I do believe it would have been. I mean, we're talking about a movie here, so like I do believe he probably was there for such hundreds of thousands of hours. Just tripping out of his mind, having to suffer through that, and him still not dying after that. What did you guys think of this character? Smith, I'll start with you.
This is my favorite character, just because,
Really?
yeah, I really liked really liked everything, especially the opening scene where he's like washing his dogs. He sees these imaginary bugs, and the whole reason he's here, obviously, is just to show us, how bad this drug can get, how deep down the hole you can go. But he does. He sort of comes back a little bit when he's hanging around the house. And I think they're about to fight in the front yard, and he's like, "This is getting too much. I gotta leave," because he's paranoid just like the rest of them. So not the dumbest guy there probably, but definitely the most addicted, or at least that's what we're supposed to understand.
Yeah, I think that his mind, honestly, in that scene, his mind was there, but his body wasn't. If that makes sense, like because he was still doing he's still doing like those little aneurysms, like you see in this picture, where he's when the movie first came on, I thought this guy was like. I thought he had like switched souls with his dog or switched bodies with his dog or something. Because I thought he was trying to resemble that he had fleas or some shit. I didn't understand until obviously later. Wow, your favorite character though. That's wow. That's crazy, Swift. That is crazy. I mean, you told us why though. Like you told us like this guy is he's pretty much the poster boy of Substance D when you take too much. But then he kind of got his shit together later on in the movie.
Oh, again. Then tried to kill himself.
You
got
said
his
what?
shit together, then tried to kill himself.
Yeah. I mean, again, like I've never done like hardcore drugs, so I don't know like the mindset or anything like that. But like, you would think, all right, if you fuck up with hard drugs, right? Or let's say you fuck up on Substance D, like this guy did, like Freck. Just put yourself in his shoes. Then he's trying to get better. And you see all the bullshit that's happening in society with Substance D in this movie. We see all this shit. We see the scrambler costumes and all the other shit, right? Who's to say, man? I mean, especially if those guys were his only friends and you see the way that they treated him in that scene where they were fighting in the yard and he was like, look, I gotta go, and they're mocking him. It was a funny scene. I like that scene. It was very funny. But if you think it from his perspective, it's like, damn, man, like those are your friends? Those are the only people you got? So I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and justify suicide. I'm not that dumb. But put yourself in his shoes. Maybe he tried to make that, but again, he got punished for it, right? So whatever kind of morals that maybe not. I don't know if in the novel if Philip K. Dick was trying to make him commit suicide, but in the movie, they try to make it like a kind of a sort of like a moral code of like, okay, now you try killing yourself. That's like the ultimate sin, right? To some to some people. So by doing, or one of the ultimate sins, right? So you try and do that. You don't succeed. Now you got to suffer for it. And I think, yeah, I mean, it was right on the money. His story, his character was right on the money, I believe.
It's interesting that you say he got his shit together. That kind of threw me. I mean, because I don't know if I'm missing something, because it's like, was there? Because I thought that was like the last we see of his character. Did they show any more after the reading of the sin scene?
No, that's it.
Okay, because
what we mean is that he had like a moment of clarity on the driveway where he's like, "Yo, the cops are gonna show up here. Like, I'm done with you guys."
That scene where he was in the car and he got stopped by the cops, dude. When I first saw that, holy shit! Like when I first saw that, I thought that he had actually got like his head. I was like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, it's that scene was crazy. That scene was crazy. It wasn't supposed to be like this big, like, but to me it was just like that because again, it was like towards like the beginning of the movie still, and he was just driving, and then all of a sudden it's just like he gets stopped, then he gets his head blown off, and I was like, what the fuck am I watching? But yeah, great character though, great character.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. I just think having him at the very beginning of the film, he's the first character we see, and he takes on a lot of mannerisms that we come to associate with people that are on heavy drugs and things like this. Yeah, I'm the same. I have been around some people that were addicts and things like this, but I'm pretty square when it comes to such things. And being around those people only made me want to be away from them even more and felt justified for staying away from it. From what I know, it's like mostly comes from movies. I mean, some of his mannerisms kind of remind me of the comedian, kind of an old one, Bobcat Goldthwait. You know, I mean, he was famous for Police Academy, but and of course, Shakes the Clown, which is like probably his best film. But and then it also reminded me of the crackhead that Dave Chappelle played in the Dave Chappelle show.
Tyrone Biggums.
Yeah. Just the facial tics and all of those things. So it kind of made me feel like, okay, well, we're just going to show you how bad this can get before we show. So it's like, it's like, okay, this is how bad the drug is. Even though these characters will appear far more lucid in the beginning, although it unravels as it goes on, as one might expect.
Yeah, I was watching some of the behind the scenes stuff because, again, when I was trying to get the ending explained to me earlier today, I was watching one video and they were saying that this was all shot live, like this was shot like an actual movie, and then what they did was they did the what's the word again? Sorry, I keep blanking on
rotoscope.
Rotoscope. So they rotoscoped it, and they said that they did this on purpose to make it look like a lucid dream. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, holy shit, this all fucking makes sense. Yeah, oh man. This was a really, really, really good movie. And I feel like this is you guys know what a guilty pleasure is, right? For a movie, right?
Oh yeah.
I feel like this is a guilty pleasure, but but maybe it's not. Maybe the majority of people did like this movie, but it just didn't get out to a big enough audience. Maybe.
Does anyone know what it got in box office?
7.7 million, and and its budget was 8.1, I believe. Hold on, I think I saw it earlier. But yeah, it didn't make much, compared to what the budget was. I don't even think it even broke profit. I mean, not broke profit. I don't even think it broke even.
You would think with this line of actors, the lines at the theaters would be pretty long, but I guess that wasn't enough.
So it was So the budget was 8.7 million, and the box office was 7.7.
So
they lost money in this movie.
And that's just budget. They lost a lot of money because when the budget numbers that are released don't include marketing. And I mean, given the popularity of this film, though, maybe they didn't put a lot into marketing. I don't know. But yeah, they lost a lot of money on this film, which may be the reason why Linklater didn't make another rotoscope movie. I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, you got to look at marketing. Yeah, you got to look at the press runs too, man. Like, but they did so it released in the Cannes Film Festival a month and a half before it released in the U.S. So that's never a good thing for box office. Whenever you release your movie like a month before you release it in the U.S. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the marketing campaign was for this movie. It obviously was not good at all. But everything else about the movie was good. I want to get more into these isms of the movie in terms of, all right, so we have the Keanu Reeves being Keanu, but here's the thing about this movie is that we don't have Keanu Reeves technically being Keanu Reeves in this movie. Like even Smith, even you stated, like in every other movie where Keanu Reeves is in, it's like, oh, it's Keanu Reeves. This movie, did you feel different in this movie?
Yeah, I would say this is probably his best performance ever. Because he actually, there was just a lot of bulk to his character and a lot of stuff going on, and he didn't do his normal. I think the rotoscope helped a lot because he's kind of got that dumb look, like when he's looking at the camera or whatever. Um, but yeah,
I think that I mean I'm roughly around the same ballpark as you when it comes to Keanu Reeves in this movie. It was good. Again, I'm a big Keanu Reeves fan, but not necessarily because of his acting, just because of all the shit that he went through in his life, and he's still able to do what he loves. So that's cool. I mean, as a human being, he's cool. As an actor, yeah, Keanu Reeves has his, yeah, he has his moments. But yeah, like he's not the best. He's not nearly the best, but he's not the worst either. But definitely, and like again, he's not gonna make or break a movie. That's the thing about Keanu Reeves. But this movie was a little bit different, and yeah, I think with the rotoscope, I think that's what helped it. I want. Here's the one thing I do want to say about this movie is the dialogue. I really enjoy the dialogue in this movie. I enjoy the dialogue between Woody Harrelson's character and Robert Downey Jr.'s character. Those guys seemed closer than anyone else in this movie. If you guys ever noticed that, when the three of them, because they're all three roommates, right? So when the three of them are, they're hanging out, they're doing their stuff. It's just the little dialogue between Woody Harrelson's character and James Barris. It is completely different than a dialogue between James Barris and Keanu Reeves' character, and Arthur. I like that because it's little small details like that kind of gives you. And again, it didn't really tie into the story or anything like that. But I just like little stuff like that, about little aneurysms like that from like directors and screenwriters, about how you kind of get that dialogue in there to establish the relationship between one character and another character. This movie was magnificent as well on the part of the drug aspect, right? Because we don't even need to have any kind of experience at all being around people with drugs or being on drugs ourselves or anything like that. Just watching this movie gives you I wouldn't say every single perspective, but it gives you a different perspective. Each character gives you a different perspective of how this drug influences the way they think. They already said left side of the hemisphere, right side of the hemisphere of your brain is what this drug does, where it kind of splits it, right? So you're kind of thinking. So that's why they put the the two doctors put the figures in Archer's hands and had him feel them, because one side of your brain is separate. Like it's super, like the way they explained it was super weird. But the one thing they did about this movie, which I'm telling you guys right now, I'm going to rate this movie. I'm going to give this movie a pretty good grade tonight because it's the little small details of what this movie does. Because they could have gotten away with saying, oh yeah, it just, it's your left hemisphere of your brain and your right hemisphere of your brain are all fucked up. You're fucked up. You can't see straight, all this other stuff, right? They went as far as giving us examples, guys. They told us, they gave us, they put the stuff in the hands and had him feel. They put the cards in front of him, and they even showed us as the viewers, as the audience, a goat. And then after that, they're saying, no, it wasn't a goat. And then you see the shape of the dog. Like, it's just stuff like that I love about this movie. I'm going to toss over to you guys. What were your highs and lows from this movie?
Mark, you want to go first, or?
Well, yeah, overall, I really did like this film. It has a lot of what I like to see in a what would probably be considered an art house film. I mean, if the budget was $8.5 million in Hollywood terms, that's nothing. And
that's crumbs.
yeah, and it is the kind of film that actors like a lot of these actors that were in this film we know as A-listers, but actors will take these type of roles for the sake of their art, because acting is an art. It isn't just memorizing lines. and
and
people
not
can
just
forget
money.
that. Yeah. Their jobs are more difficult than many people give them credit for. And so I think at times actors will do that despite the money aspect to help a independent filmmaker like Linkletter at the time. Given that this film was not only intellectually engaging and very cerebral, it was artistically sensible. It just was done with like as a work of love, and it shows that this movie wasn't. It turned out not losing a lot of money, and like clearly they knew going into it, it wasn't going to make $1 billion. I'm sure they hoped for more, but but so much effort was put into it.
Smith?
I think the part about this film that I enjoy a lot is the. You guys have seen Train Spotting, right?
Mhm.
No. Well, it's another drug addict film, but it's heroin that time, and I like how they get these archetypal addict personalities in here. Like put Arthur and Winona Ryder's character aside, we have Robert Downey Jr., who's the guy. He's an addict as well, but he is cold and unfeeling, and he's kind of just looking out for himself and his next score of the drug. And then we have our opening scene character, Fick, right? And he is just the example of how far it goes. He's completely perma-fried, super paranoid, just crazy. And then we have Woody Lee Harrelson's character, who is, like you said earlier, you kind of get that feeling that he was probably involved in this lifestyle before the movie's cast or set, And he's like the guy who's grew up in it, and maybe he's too stupid to realize otherwise. Like he just does drugs, the party rock kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot. And another thing I'd like to mention is I like how you have it up in the background, the bike scene where he comes in with the presumably stolen bike. That was a great fucking scene, dude.
Yeah.
That's probably I'd say, I'm telling you, like, the dialogue scenes are probably my favorite scenes. I know, definitely my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah, the
Because
best parts of this film are when they're just sitting in the house, like just saying shit to each other.
where it's like, oh damn, what do you say? What do you say? It's like we say, oh, it's 18 speed. It's like, oh no, it's 9. It's like, oh yeah, you got power here. Yeah, he was like, oh no, wait, it's 8. It's like, wait, what? I love that scene. That scene and the scene where they have to stop the car and they got to get towed, and then on their way back, like those two scenes are definitely my two favorite scenes. Those are just, they're gold. Just getting those 3 actors together in a scene, period, is enough for me, bro. Like it's amazing. If you had to pick any lows from this movie, Smith, what would you say were some of the lows of this movie, if there are any to you?
Some of the police station scenes are a little drawn out. Maybe like I know it's not an easy film to understand in the first place, but when you're watching through some of that stuff, it's like you kind of lose track between, especially when he's talking to those two, I guess they're doctors, scientists, whatever. They gave him the figures. Then it sort of like flips back and they're different people. I don't know if those were like a different test that he was going into with different people, or like if he was like losing so much of his mind that he saw different people. So that, I mean, it's good to keep us guessing, but I would have liked a little bit more clarification there.
That was my low point in the movie. We'll get more into that though. Mark?
I cannot think of anything that I would think is a low point in this film. I like explosions and boom boom and ha ha very well, but I really like it when I watch a film that I feel that is done artistically masterfully and intellectually engaging. The this kind of movie gives people something to talk about and think about after it's done. I mean, there's so many films that we could name that, it's like, yeah, you watch that, you kind of set your brain on the coffee table or at the, side table or, in the seat next to you or whatever. And you just watch it, you have a good time, and then it's done. There's not much more to say. Yeah, and this film does that, and it does it in a very strong way. Aside from being a notorious grindhouse drive and straight to video type of movie watcher, yeah, I'm also a big fan of the foreign films and art house films, that are considered highfalutin and cerebral too, and it stands out strongly for me among those.
I have to say that my low point, it's the same, pretty much the same as yours, Smith. Is it didn't, as much as they gave us in terms of detail of giving us clarification of like what the actual drug does. They also did not give us too much clarification on the scramble suits. They didn't give us too much clarification on, okay, when he's in that system and in the scanner, right? Is he in like another dimension in the same world, or is he literally in the same world and just like a dimensional body? Is he a hologram? Like what exactly was going on there? So I have to caveat off of what you said, Smith, not to steal your answer or anything, but if there is a low point to this movie, that is the low point, because while it didn't take me out too much, that's how interesting and that's how good this movie was. Even though they had such a big detail like that, kind of not really explained, I still enjoyed this. I still enjoyed this, guys. Like this is a very, I am so shocked I never heard of this movie. And if I did hear this movie, I never paid attention.
To sort of contradict your point, you kind of did what I think the movie intended to do with those open-ended questions. You asked, was he in another dimension? Well, I think that those kind of things were left out for you to maybe speculate on that, where not all the answers are there. And, this movie, I think, tries to create more questions than answers. So if the audience is coming out of it with questions, especially in a Philip K. Dick movie, his job has been done.
Yeah. I because one of the things in this movie that really, so the main plot, I wouldn't say the main plot, but part of the main plot was that this entire movie you're trying to figure out, okay, why are they trying to hunt down Arthur? And then you find out once they arrest Barris, they're like, oh, we got him. Well, we needed Barris to get someone else. It's weird how they used that dimension. I keep saying dimension, but you know what I mean? It's weird how they used the scanner. And then they put the security system in Arthur's house. They put it outside his house. All this other stuff. And then they actually arrest Barris once he contradicted himself. Arrested him. And then said that he was, they needed him because he was the link to like a bigger, drug organization, right? That he was like involved with or whatever, right?
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about that plot twist? I mean, I wouldn't just call it a plot twist. Would you guys count that as a plot twist?
Well, I thought it was clear that that Arthur ended up exactly where they wanted him. So
well, in the end, but I'm talking about in that particular scene, though. Like inside the.
Yeah, that was unexpected to where, but he was, but yeah, I mean it's not very unconventional in a way too, where a lot of what James was doing in the film, like at that point, you realize how much of it was a red herring. To throw us off, right? Because he was coming into the station and trying to be an informant, and all the things that he was telling sounded like crackpot things to say, and we later find out that they were actual meaningful things that he said. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting twist.
Crazy.
Yeah,
and I kind of felt it had a plot twisty feel to it. I'll say that. But how did you guys feel about, pretty much the ending where Arthur pretty much ended up. See, this is the ending that I kind of need explained, and I kind of want to get you guys' perspective on the ending, where he was like in that field, and then the guy was talking to him, and then he was like looking for the flowers, and the flowers weren't there, right? Or the certain kind of flowers he was looking for weren't there. What were you guys' perspective on that ending? Because that was a to me that was a very confusing ending. Smith, I'll start with you. What was your perspective on that?
I thought the ending was great. But what's the name of the company that runs that rehab facility? Can't even remember that.
It was something with a P, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I've
Trying to see if I can find it.
wait, I'm on the wrong page.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't seem to find it on the Wikipedia page in the plot. Which, oh man, you would think they would have the name of that company in there, given that it's very, at the very beginning.
Like Pete or something like that. Not Pete, but
I don't know, but that company, the whole way they did that, like, because like one of you mentioned earlier, they were funding that talk that Arthur was a part of, talking about the drug use and everything, and they're the ones, he gets so perma-fried, they ended up sending him to the farm where he's going to be, I guess, like almost like slave labor. He's doing the work out there to grow the drug, which I thought was, that's a good ending. That's pretty ironic. But what's weird to me is how Winona Ryder and I guess their boss, the guy who Arthur was always talking to, they knew where he was and what he was doing, but they were somehow able to stop that. Kind of a plot hole there, right? Because they were aware where he was. They were saying he hopes he just remembers that he's an agent. Or am I wrong?
Yeah. Because that's the part where I was like, wait, so they know?
So they know where it's all coming from. Yeah, kind of a weird part there, but I do like the ending.
The man that was talking to her, it sounded to me like, like where he said, "Oh, well, hopefully there's something part in him, some blip that will remember." So she had her doubts, but he was defending it. Like, well, this is the only way we can do it. There's casualties, I mean, that brings up all kinds of questions, like, even if you're volunteering for it, is it still okay to put somebody in a program like that? And I don't know if we've really talked enough about Philip K. Dick for me to keep bringing him up and assuming that everyone will know
people know who he is.
yeah. But well, I mean, or just like Noah's reputation. But he had problems with mental problems, and then of course, his whole life was questioning, who he was, and if what he thought was reality was really reality. But in that ending, we see Arthur walking toward the camera in a field, which the plants will look like tall, like they look like corn stalks almost that weren't green. And then he sees the flowers that were short, and there were little blue flowers on the ground, and he kneels and looks at them. And then the guy who I assume is a major player in this company that's getting burnout substance D abusers to do the shit work for him. He said something along the lines of, about him like seeing them, and he said not seeing them. So I went somewhere between, the blue flowers might have been what was the substance was, but I think it might be a callback to when one of the lab coats said to him, suggested that he get little blue flowers that are being sold everywhere for Donna that he wanted to use to seduce her with. And so I thought maybe that was kind of a bone that they threw us, because it might have been something from the outside world, that it might be something that might be the trigger, that might be or at least showing us that yes, there's something of the outside world there, when the ending otherwise tells us otherwise. So that there might be hope for him, but it's still left ambiguous, because this film isn't about answers, it's about questions.
I like the way you put that. I like the way you put that. It's not about it's not about the answers, it's about the questions. And that's one thing that carried with me throughout the entire film is nothing but questions. You know, I had question on top of question on top of question. Some got answered, some didn't. Um, with this movie, everything for me pretty much clicked. Again, we know that the marketing probably wasn't the best back, you know, how many years ago was this now? 14, 15 years ago. So given good marketing, this movie should have made a lot more. This movie should have gotten a lot more recognition. I gotta say. But with the ensemble cast that they had, lights out. Lights out. This was a great movie. I do want to throw this. I do want to throw this question to you guys though. Would you guys ever? Do you guys ever think we'll ever get to a point in society? And I know this isn't a tinfoil hat podcast or anything like that. This isn't comrades or anything like that. But do you guys think that this could ever happen in real life? And Mark, I'll start with you.
Well, I think what's interesting about it, I mean, within my pop culture radar, I often see articles or videos where people address Philip K. Dick as being right on about security culture, with the way security culture has become surveillance culture, and saying that he's ahead of his time. And despite talking about him as much as I have in this episode, it's relevant.
I mean, this movie came from his mind, though. So I mean, it's good.
But I'm just saying that I wish I would have read more of him to be able to lend some more expertise to that. But yeah, I just think too. They mentioned facial recognition, and it's like I don't know, the loss of the drug war, I guess, may have been an assumption we were supposed to make. I don't know. But personally, I know this could be a whole other podcast, but I think the drug war was lost before it even started. So, but with technology the way it's going and right where it is, I think we've already seen this film become true in a lot of ways since 2006, and most certainly since 1977 when the novel was written.
Okay.
There's some things in there, Mark. One of these days, I'm gonna have you on Comrades. One of these days. Anyway, we'll talk about the drug war. But Smith, what about you?
Well, it's hard to follow up with what he said. But yeah, definitely surveillance is already a thing. And I know that you mentioned this earlier, Mark, but the only sci-fi aspect of this film is the morph suits, or the scatter suits. And that's a bold thing to say, because it really is all this technology and shit for monitoring people and stuff, facial recognition. It already exists. So is a similar thing playing out right now for some undercover cop? Probably not, but it could. It could. I don't know if there's a poppy seed farm that has a bunch of strung out farm workers on it.
Well, we have to remember this too, though. This movie was made 15 years ago. So 15 years ago, this would have fallen under science fiction, just like movies now, right? Movies that are happening now, that are coming out now, that are pretty much predicting the future. At least, in my mindset, I believe some of it's predicting the future and kind of foreshadowing what's to come. At least with our society here in America. but we're still calling it science fiction. We're still calling these movies sci-fi, right? But who's to say, 20 years from now, or hell, even 5 years from now, it might not be so much science fiction. It might just be foreshadowing. But again, I way too far down this rabbit hole of that. But yeah, like again, the end of this movie, it didn't fall flat for me. It was just very confusing for me. So I had to look up, a few things that, look up a few sources to figure out, okay, what was this ending about? What would this do? Whatever. But now we're gonna go. Well, before we get to our grades, what's one last what's one last thing you guys want to say about this movie? Smith, I'll start with you.
Oh, we failed to mention the Alex Jones performance.
Oh yes, he did have a cameo.
Oh, I didn't
yes,
fail. I fucking hate him.
He did have a cameo in this. How did I gloss over that?
I thought that was crazy. He's in the parking lot. I don't know why that scene was there, but it was definitely interesting.
Oh my god!
He was also in Waking Life. The other rotoscope film. I did actually I don't know, somewhere I picked up that Linklater kind of regretted working with the guy and sort of was like, well, yeah, I mean, had I known how far he was going to, how deep he was going to be and destructive and things like that, then yeah, that would not be cool. But it is what it is, but yeah, he's but I mean, it's it's like, well, I mean, as far as like a wacko on the street with a bullhorn, I mean, yeah. but yeah, with a bullhorn, wow, there you go. I mean, he was the real deal. I mean, it'd be like if they had a real drug addict in the movie. Well, I mean, they kind of did, recovering, but
Yeah, and also before we move forward, I do want to go and recognize Anthony Dufresne again. He writes in, he says RDJ was a heavy drug addict, which is why the performance is so genuine. Oh man, that
yeah, you could say the same thing about Fear and Loathing as well.
I've heard. Oh man, I haven't even seen that. I haven't even seen it. I've heard about it, though. I've heard about it. That movie I have heard about, but I have not seen it.
Well, I wonder if the commentator's been here since the beginning, because we did kind of cover that. So his history of drug use.
Mm-hmm. And I do need to go back and watch some movies of Robert Downey Jr. because again, I wasn't really a Robert Downey Jr. fan until Iron Man. Most, like a lot of people were. I can't even say most people, because he is from like the 80s and 90s, so he's been around for a while, prior to Iron Man. But of course, he had the downfall, with the drug addiction and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean his performance was literally the best performance of this movie, like hands down. Like that movie, I mean, that role to me was really, really, really well done. And thank you again, Anthony Dufresne, and thank you, Jaron, for writing in as well. So Mark, what else do you have to say about this movie? Like any lasting thoughts on it? Any notable scenes or anything like that?
Well, yeah, just to go back to the question of my answer about whether or not it could really happen or whatnot. To say that, I'm really not a tinfoil hat wearer. I am more of a Carl Sagan than I am an Alex Jones by far. So yeah, but the thing about the film that it does well, especially for a recent future type science fiction film, is that it has an air of plausibility, and it does mix things that are real, and it did a decent job of predicting some things in certain ways. I mean, maybe a hard drug user could watch this and harp on how unreal it was, but the film wasn't necessarily made for them. I mean, the point of films isn't to, fiction films isn't to inform people on those things necessarily, but to make it believable enough to keep you engaged with the film and not take you out of it too far. So, so it had that air of plausibility and believability to it that I felt was strong.
I agree, but disagree as well. Because I think that there's some movies where it all depends on one. It would be either the director or the screenwriter, um, or even if it's from like point in case in this movie where it came from straight from the novel, right? Do you guys know if this was like a direct adaptation from the novel?
Um, someone, someone that replied to, I posted about this on Facebook, and someone who I know to be quite well read and things like that said that he felt it was the truest adaptation to a Philip K. Dick novel that he
Really?
yeah. So,
Okay.
uh, and I think he's read more than I have, so I would defer to him as an expert.
So because I mean the reason I say it is because while I'm not even gonna say sci-fi movies, but while movies in general, I mean, but you could say that the genre of sci-fi, just like what we just talked about just a few minutes ago, is that you can still have the fiction aspect to it, but still have that relative meaning behind it to us as human beings in the society that we live in, whether it was 2006 or 2026. Um, because while yes, it can still be fiction, I do believe that you can still have maybe not. I wouldn't necessarily use the word undertones because I don't think undertone would be like the appropriate word to say, but you could put sprinkle a little bit of truth on there, and those are the kind of movies I like as well. But yeah, I do like to be able to turn my mind off a little bit. This is not a movie that I believe you can be able to watch and turn your mind off and completely get away from like comparing it to hell, even what we lived in, the world we lived in 2006, especially now. Like this is to me, this movie, do you like Smith said, we don't really classify this as science fiction anymore because it's 2021 now. Would you still say that it's science fiction? Like, does it still stay true to that science fiction aspect to it? Besides,
Yeah,
other than the scrambling costume, right?
uh, mostly I would in regards to the speculation as to what technology in the future is. I mean, I know that's just a sliver in this film, but I think that definitely puts it in the science fiction category. Also, in that the way science fiction often goes is, especially futuristic science fiction, is there is some sort of um, ethical aspect dimension or some philosophical dimension to it where it's kind of an allegory of the present time that it was written or filmed.
Yeah. Um, what would you guys? All right, so I'm gonna go to the grades, and Smith, I'm gonna start with you. A to F. What would you grade this movie?
So no A plus, just A to F, or
I mean, I'm sorry. I mean,
yeah,
A
yeah.
plus to F. My bad.
I would give this an a solid A. Um, there are going to be a few people who watch this who don't enjoy it. Like I wouldn't recommend this film to my grandma, but if you're not a grandma, there's nothing wrong with this film. You just got to pay attention to it. It's great. It's probably a masterpiece.
Mark.
I'm giving it a straight up A plus. And one of the main reasons, other than just really enjoying it and finding it engaging and a lot to think about and reflect on, I think that aspect is good for people, even if they may not understand it entirely. Because despite my big words and insights into this film that I made during this review, that's just my reflection of it. And I think if people could have, come into it, expecting that it's not uh, a very fast-paced film in a lot of ways, although the dialogue is engaging to the point where the film doesn't drag. Yeah, it's just, and not everything's going to be spelled out, but I think that's the reason why it can be more accessible to more people. And hopefully, with so somebody's grandmother I don't know if they could sit all the way through it, but I would still give it the A+, saying, well, that's your loss.
Yep. I'm gonna have to give this movie a solid A, and the reason being is because one, what was the story good? Yes. So the story kept me in. Character development, absolutely. And you could say the same for Keanu Reeves' character, the main character Arthur. I mean, he had a little bit of character development, right? You know, especially towards the end. You know, where we get the plot twist, right? And then obviously, you know, the actors did their part in the movie as well. And then obviously the visuals. The visuals, it didn't really take. Now, at first, again, I was I was inebriated when I started watching this movie the first time, so that's why I would say, you know, it kind of took me out a little bit. But watching the movie a second time, like it, and I watched the second time literally to just focus on like the actual details of the movie. But even the visuals, like the fact that you know the God damn it, what is the word again?
Rotoscope.
Rotoscope. I got to get used to that fucking word. Like the rotoscope engineering, you know, but behind this whole thing, like this movie was, and you said it just perfectly, Smith. Masterpiece. This movie was a masterpiece, and I feel like it's a hidden gem. Now it's not like a Forrest Gump-esque type masterpiece where it's like, watch this riveting story about, you know, these drug addicts and how they're, you know. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to sell that movie saying that, but to me, this movie is I feel like it's a downgrade if I call it a guilty pleasure, because a guilty pleasure, you know, a guilty pleasure is usually like a movie where, you know, not many people, you know, really love it, but I feel like not many people really seen this movie. If they've seen it, I feel like it wouldn't be a guilty pleasure. I feel like it would just be the gem that it is. But
I don't know. To me, a guilty pleasure would be a Vin Diesel movie. I can enjoy Triple X and you know.
Well, we can't count Fast and Furious. Yeah, Fast and Furious would definitely not be a guilty pleasure.
You know, or you know, like silly action movies that he's in, and you know, despite you know his, you know, yeah, I can't defend his acting. I can't defend the movies, but I enjoy watching them. So to me, that's a guilty pleasure.
So if there's one thing we all learned tonight, are the three actors that we literally despise. Smith despises Keanu Reeves. Mark, you despise Vin Diesel, and I despise The Rock.
No, I don't despise Vin Diesel. I like Vin. Oh. That's why he's a guilty pleasure, because I like Vin Diesel, but I can't defend his, you know, like, oh, he's a bad actor. Well, yeah, you know, but I still want to watch it, you know. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean by guilty pleasure. No, because Vin Diesel, you know, and I know he's dying to see this. You know, yes, I love you, man. You know, let's hang out and play D&D. I know he plays D&D, and I want to play D&D with Vin Diesel.
And Rock, if you're watching, stick to directing. All right, but yeah, that's our grade, and that's our review of A Scanner Darkly, starring Robert Downey Jr., Woody Harrelson, Winona Ryder, and who's the other guy? Keanu Reeves. Did I leave out Keanu Reeves? Did I really leave him out? God damn it. He's the main fucking character. I left him out. Keanu Reeves. I guess that just supports Smith's opinion already. Keanu Reeves is an afterthought. You know, no, he's not really. But yeah, you guys got any lasting words on A Scanner Darkly on this review or anything?
Well, I don't, but because last time during Homefront, I forgot to mention. You know, we asked our last words and then we signed off. So I just wanted to plug, you know, just say, hey, you can find me at the WalterPaisleyCafe.com for movie reviews. I've been a little slow over the holidays since the beginning of week of Christmas. But I just watched this film called Bloody Bible Camp. And believe it or not, I really had fun watching that movie, and I'm going to review it next. Also, I'm an artist and I make money on that, whereas I don't from my writing. So if you look for me tomorrow on at Spidau, SCHPIDAUU, or my other, or at Mark Plaid on Instagram, you can find that. I'll have something up for sale. I really had a good time drawing it, and people seem to really enjoy it. So check that out and check me out. Thanks.
Smith, you got any plugs or anything? Any shout outs? Anywhere for the people?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm sure it'll be in the description or on the post that you saw this on. If you message me, I'll send you a meme or something. I don't know.
And guys, I'm Corn. This is Half-Ass Podcast. Obviously, hit that like and subscribe as you guys are in here, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching later on. Thank you guys for all the support. Thank you guys again for an amazing 2020. I was trying to compile some clips of all the interviews and all the other casts and stuff that we've done this year. But obviously, I've been working a lot. I know it's the holiday season and everything. I haven't been able to post as much here on YouTube, but I got some things coming. And next week, our panel is back on an original episode here on Half-Ass Podcast. So stay tuned for that. We're going to have some topics for you guys next week. But in the meantime, you can find Half-Ass Pod on Instagram, Twitter, all that shit. This is Mark Plaid. And this is Smith. And I'm Corn. And this is Half-Ass Podcast. And we are OUT. Until next time.